How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to my F2 2020 Championship for round 9 at the Belgian GP. Obviously not one of the best rounds for Formula 2 in recent years with the terrible crash back in 2019, but Spa is still one of the most iconic circuits in the world, and with qualifying started, I'll let you look at what's probably going to be the longest lap of the season. So as we head up to the bus stop chicane to finish the lap, around P8, P9, there's a bit of time on the entry into the chicane, but get a pretty good exit. As we run up to the line, we're going to come across to finish P7. So our championship rival Artem Markelov takes the 4 points for pole ahead of Giuliano Alesi and Schwartzman. Our teammates show in 4th, followed by Sonoda, Matsushita, myself in 7th, with Armstrong, Giotto and Sato round out the top 10.
It's Saturday, and that means we're preparing for today's Formula 2 event here in Spa. As the cars are being prepared, let's join them trackside for the start of what promises to be a terrific race. So here we are again, a whopping 4.35 miles of track here at Spa, featuring long straights, some seriously fast corners, and some massive elevation changes. This is a track that routinely delivers high-quality racing, and we'll be hoping to see just that from our young F2 drivers today.
So as we head to the lights ahead of the feature edge from P7, the lights go out and get a pretty good launch, but get a lot of wheel spin then, and pretty poor start on the short run into turn 1. Drop down to P9 there for a second as we're side by side with Giotto, but the high-tech driver manages to get ahead, and from P7 we lose 2 spots down into P9. On the run up through Eau Rouge and Radion, we get a much better run than Giotto and almost run into the back and have to go off the track a bit to avoid him. And luckily I was on the track as we managed to get past the Italian and up into the top 8 once again, as into Lake Com. A bit of a traffic jam, stuck behind Armstrong, Sonoda, and couldn't make up any more positions yet on the opening lap. And we run down into the hairpin. Going to notice during this race that it's very easy to lock up here. You have to almost brake way earlier than you really want to just be able to hit the apex there. But as we run on to towards the end of the first lap then, through Stavolo, we get a pretty good run and in the slipstream of Armstrong ahead, up to Blanchimont towards the last turn. In the slipstream we have to lift off massively there with the dirty air. Wait to the bus stop chicane, Armstrong decides to defend. We go around the outside, but the AR team manages to hold position with the inside line, and on the exit of the chicane we're almost pushing them through it. As we start lap 2, saw Markelov set the fastest lap of the race as he is leading. Into turn 1, trying to get a good exit to stay close to the cars ahead, and maybe like the opening lap on the auto, we can get a better run up the hill and make a move down the Kemmel straight. As we go up the hill, we do get a much better run than Armstrong, and we're carrying so much more speed down the straight, and with the slipstream we go to the outside, almost go onto the grass, but we're ahead before we get to turn 7 into the Lacombe chicane and up into our starting position. And a lap later then, on lap 3, the same part of the track out of the first turn, we're a lot further back from Sonoda ahead than we were on the last lap from Armstrong, so don't know if we'll be able to make a move here, but once again up through Eau Rouge and Radion we get a much better run than the cars ahead, and with the RS we're starting the game, but unfortunately for me Sonoda also has the RS on Matsushita. As the Carlin driver goes to the outside, tries to make a move around the outside of the MP Motorsport driver, turns to the inside for the next part, but then once again is the outside line. As through turn 9 we get a much better run than Sonoda. Look at trying going down the inside of the hairpin, which we seem to be able to do. We have the inside here, but once again the outside for the left-hander. Make a bit of contact, run a bit wide, but Sonoda manages to stay ahead for now, as that allows Armstrong to get very close to me through Pouan. We go a bit wide, don't get the best run, and you can see by the arrow Armstrong gets a very good run, and he's almost beside us going into turn 13, but we managed to stay ahead now as there's a yellow flag behind me, and just a bit further on that lap Samaya retired from the race and the safety car is called out. And with 10 laps left, I wasn't sure if pitting now would be the best option for the medium tyre, and you can see there Jeff gave the alternate strategy, but I noticed that said doing 2 stints on the medium tyre, so as everyone else pits, I know that they're probably going to do the 2 stop as well, so I stay out, take the lead of the race, and I'm just going to do the normal strategy that I had planned. So pretty much everyone now has 1 stop left, as you can see in the top left. Anyone who pitted decided to pit onto soft, so that just confirms that they're going to make another stop in this race. As on to the end of lap 5 now, safety car is coming in, and I decided to go very early there, but into the chicane, block up a bit and lose a bit of time, but we still managed to break out about 8 tenths from the cars behind on the restart. But out of turn 1 you can see the gap goes from 8 tenths, and now on the exits down below or around 6 tenths, so in the first turn alone losing about 2 tenths to the AI, but then you can see through Eau Rouge and Radion I'm taking that flat out and the AI must not be able to, so we gain back that time again. As on to the end of lap 6 now, being 1 flying lap since the safety car came in, and now I'm going to make my pit stop for the medium tyre and hopefully be able to get an undercut on the cars that were behind me and pull out the gap a bit more. And as we're exiting the pit now, obviously drop down to last place, but now just about trying to put in a qualifying lap on the out lap and see how much time we can gain. And on to the end of that out lap then you can see that cars have started to pit already, so anyone who pit under the safety car only done 2 or 3 laps on fresh soft tyres, so really doesn't make much sense to me. As we go out of turn 1, our teammate comes out behind us, and on to the end of that lap then, the rest of the cars that had pit under the safety car pit, as I said, fastest lap of the race, over a second quicker than my previous personal best. And I knew my teammate was close behind me, so I'm going to stay on board now just to see whereabouts he is in the order once everyone comes out of the pits. And as we go up the Kemmel straight you can see that he is in 4th place. But on the end of lap 9, start lap 10, you can see he sets the fastest lap of the race. But the gap that we had made from the undercut to the cars behind, they seem to be quicker than me, and Markelov closed back into DRS range very quickly, but luckily for me, because I was able to get such a good run through Eau Rouge and Radion, that I never really had a chance to overtake me on the Kemmel straight. As onto the start of the last lap, Joe sets another fastest lap of the race, and now going to show the whole last lap I think, but I was sort of hoping to try and get a double podium for the team. So at some stages in this lap I go very slowly to try and hold up the cars behind and see if that could help Joe overtake Schwarzman and get the podium position. So you can see here through Lake Com going quite a bit slower than I was on a normal lap. It might not seem like it, but I wasn't accelerating as much as I would through the corners, as through the hairpin had a big lock up there, which wasn't in the plan to try and hold people up. But through this left-hander going very slowly. But anytime I do this, I make sure to try and get a good exit, so I'm not coming under any pressure from Markelov behind. As through Pouan, he's very close behind us, but managed to get a good run and stay ahead. And into this chicane, I think this might be where I slowed down the most. I was almost steering off the track on the inside because I was after getting used to a bit of understeer taking that corner normally. As through Stavlo 1, go a bit slow, but once again get a good exit and very good run through Stavlo 2 as we're pulling out the gap from the cars behind and the run up towards the bus stop chicane for the final time in this feature race. Through Blanchimont, it's pretty easy flat even in these cars, and braking for the bus stop, brake very early there, and you can just see how slow I'm going. I'm only going about 60 kilometers an hour through those turns, but I'd run up to the line, we take the win, but unfortunately Joe wasn't able to sneak onto the podium.
You worked hard for that one. Congratulations.
Dies down after another eventful race. Here come our top three out onto the podium.
So I take the victory over Artem Markelov, so I extend my championship lead in this race, with Schwarzman claiming the final spot on the podium just ahead of my teammate Joe, who gets the fastest lap as well, so 14 points for him. Matsushita gets 5th ahead of Giotto, Sonoda and Armstrong claiming reverse grid pole, with Piquet and Sato round out the point scorers in this race. And as we go to the sprint race, you can see that it is raining, but hopefully it should dry out before the end of the race and go on to softs. But at the start, get a very poor start compared to the AI, who have a bit of traction control, and into turn 1 we drop down to P11 momentarily and almost run into the back of the Charoux. I think that's Sato who was ahead of us. Luckily he turned to the left and managed to avoid him as I locked up. But up towards Eau Rouge and Radion now, we dropped down quite a few places on the opening lap, and you've probably noticed already that this isn't my normal onboard because for some reason I didn't record the sprint race, but luckily I was able to record the important moments on the replay camera, so sorry about that, but it is what it is, I suppose. And just looking at a replay now, you can see, I think that was Samaya tries to go side by side up Eau Rouge and didn't end well for the Campos driver. As on to lap 2 now, looking from my rear wing as Lacey closes up behind us. The AI were getting a much better run than me up Eau Rouge in the wet, so the roles reversed from the feature race where that's where I was gaining all my time. But on to lap 3 now, you can see on the board the safety car's being called out. I'm not entirely sure what that was for, I can't really remember, but we're still in P11 as the safety car comes in on the end of lap 4. Staying close to Sato ahead of me, trying to see if maybe can get a pass done into turn 1 at the restart. Okay, pretty good exit out of the chicane, but not as good as what the AI are able to manage. As into turn 1, lock up and very nearly hit the car head as we're drifting around the hairpin, and on the exit again getting another snap of oversteer. As going behind now, looking at Ilott on board into Eau Rouge, he almost looks to have a go on the inside, which is a bit stupid in my opinion, because if he had just stayed behind, he probably could have gone past me on the Kemmel straight. But as we skip ahead onto lap 9 now, still in P11 and into turn 1, take a lot of curb there and a big slide on the exit, and that allows Ilott to get past us on the run down towards the hill, go down into P12. But by this stage I'd managed to sort of figure out how to take this section of the track and was starting to get a better run through it than the AI. And like Ilott should have done in the last clip, stay behind, and with the slipstream down the Kemmel straight, we get past the raced out driver and back up into P11. As on to the last lap now, through Pouan. Go onto the curb a small bit, now it's set to the car, and as I try to correct it, I lose complete control of the car, and there's nothing I can do about it. Slide back onto the track. Fortunately, Christian Lundgaard collects us, as there was no way really that he could avoid it or I could avoid it. And go to look at our replay now, you can see just lose the back end, drifting almost through the corners, and when I correct it, I try and correct it again then, and just slide back onto the track, and pretty big crash there. Luckily Lundgaard doesn't retire, but it doesn't really matter because with being the last lap, not going to score any points either way. And you can see there he just hits my front wheel, and as we go now into the last turns, going to come across the line in P20 for my worst result of the season. So Armstrong wins the race ahead of Tsunoda, Matsushita, Giotto, our rival Markelov, Schwartzman, Joe and Piquet round out the point scores, with Joe also getting the 2 points for fastest lap. And looking at the weekend standings then, Markelov takes the most points ahead of myself, followed by Matsushita. So even after a poor sprint race, don't lose too much points in the championship, as our lead shrinks slightly from over 40 points down to 38 ahead of Markelov, as Virtuosi also retained the lead of the driver's standings. But that's all for now. Until the next one, thanks for watching, see you then.